There it is. Okay. So look, hopefully you can see my screen. So I'll do a proper introduction and just make sure that everybody is in and you can all hear me. So welcome everyone to Recruiters. I've just forgotten what I was going to say. Recruiters Live Lounge. It's not Live Lounge. Oh man, I tell you what, this job gets harder and harder, doesn't it? Welcome everyone to 25 Tribe. There it is, 25 Tribe. I do need to say hello to some new people that have joined us. So if you guys are from Dawson Levy, welcome to 25 Tribe. A very, very warm welcome from everybody here. Welcome to the show. Today, guys, you're not going to see me on camera, okay? I'm having one of those bad hair days. It's not bad hair. It's actually severe toothache for the last 2 weeks. So my mouth's all like weird. And if you could see me now, you'd see my left index finger is in finger splints. Don't ask, all right? Really don't ask. But I can use one other finger. So which means that I can tap keys on a keyboard like advanced slides. So if you'll forgive me that, you won't be seeing me on camera today, but hopefully you are hearing my voice and you can see my slides up ahead of you, front of you. So look, let's get into this properly. Welcome to 25 Tribe. Today's session is about coaching your candidate to pre-close during their client interview. Okay, so coaching your candidate to pre-close during a client interview. So look, we know loads and loads of candidates don't know how to close themselves for a position before ending an interview. Okay, I don't know. It's like we always make the assumption, don't we? We're always kind of saying, oh, well, you know, I deal with candidates that are senior, or I deal with candidates who are sales orientated. And usually those ones are better. I'd hope so. But, you know, I don't take anything for granted. And the reason why I've done this session today, talking about coaching candidates to pre-close, is often I talk about big concepts. You know, I talk about marketing your recruitment business. I'll talk about big things, big strategy, top line stuff with you as owners. But actually, sometimes it's when you focus in on the small things, the minor alterations. It's like I've used this analogy before about somebody, coaching a footballer on how to take a good free kick. It's like they don't just say, right, okay, yeah, that's good or whatever. They'll get the person. Let's take a David Beckham. I know I'm kind of aging myself here, but let's take David Beckham. And, a good coach will look at David Beckham and they'll say, right, David, you can take a free kick. We know you can. You're very good at it. Well done. But what we want to do is let's just line up 100 balls and let's just, I want you to kick 100 balls into the net from a free kick position. And so David Beckham will continue to proceed to just go kicking each of those balls into the open net. And then what will happen is that a good coach, so if you're coaching David Beckham, then what you will do is you'd say, David, look, I've just watched you kick 100 balls. And we're not going to overhaul David Beckham's style of taking a free kick. But what we will do is feed back to him and say, David, you know something? When you score your free kick goals, then your head position is here. When you miss, your head position is there. When you're running up, you take that amount of steps in your run up. When you score, you take that amount of steps in your run up. When you don't score, you plant your plant feet. I don't know. You plant your foot in this position. When you score, you plant your foot in that position or that direction when you don't score. David, you hit the ball on this spot 9 times out of 10 when you score, and then you hit the ball on this spot fractionally off when you fail to score. And it's those small things. You could apply that to golf swings, tennis, any kind of like where you're coaching somebody. It's the small things. And that's why, I've looked at this and thought to myself, well, hang on a second. I know that we are losing deals. I know that we send candidates in there. You do a great job. You take a great brief. You find great candidates. You source and find great candidates. You sell the opportunity to the candidate. You sell the candidate to the client. You get the candidate in there. And this is the one place. It's like, you know me, where I talk about my 39 steps and my 12 steps and all of this kind of thing about controlling the recruitment process. But when the candidate is in the interview, when your candidate is in the interview with your client and you're not in there, then you know what? Most of us are just crossing our fingers because you can't, most people will tell you can't influence that part of the deal. It's like, oh, well, let's just cross our fingers, bury our heads in the sand and hope that it all comes together. Well, I don't like that. I like controlling the recruitment process. I like you controlling the recruitment process. And if this is the one area that we can't control it, but we can influence it, then I'll take that. I'll take that each and every day. So look, let's go back to this subject. Lots of candidates don't know how to close themselves, right? Forget that they're experienced, forget that they're senior, forget that they're salespeople. If you're dealing with any candidates that are sales positions, lots of candidates don't know how to close themselves. Even salespeople can get embarrassed about this. They know how to close a deal, but they don't equate the interview to a deal, or they don't equate the interview to a meeting. Emotion creeps into it. Loads of other things affect it. And so what ends up doing is that they're lousy at pre-closing or closing a client in an interview situation. So what I want to do today is give you the guidelines on how to prep your candidates for this vitally important step towards being offered the position. Okay, how about that? How do you like them apples, as my daughter says to me. How do you like them apples, Dad? Okay, so look, the challenge. And you know me, I always like to think of challenges as opportunities. The challenge, it's not the problem. The challenge is because many of your candidates are not skilled at selling themselves, you must coach them in presenting their work history, their qualifications, and the potential benefits that they offer to an employer. You must also help them understand how and why it's critical to ask for the position at the end of a good interview. And I've said this before, I'm not sure to you guys, but for me, this challenge is also an opportunity. It's an opportunity for you to really add some significant value to your candidate relationship. Because a lot of them, talk about the senior ones, the executive ones, the higher level ones, even the sales ones. They hate being senior and exec and sales and everything else because no one talks to them. Everyone presumes that they know what they're doing. Everyone presumes that a raw graduate going for their first interview with you, or going for their first interview with your client, they're the ones that need prep. Do you know what? It's like most graduates I know are really well prepped. In fact, they're over prepped. They're prepped by their mums, their dads, their big brothers and sisters, their friends, their relatives, older people. Everyone is talking to a grad about, oh, you want to do this in interview, son. You want to polish your shoes. Don't smoke, don't chew gum. Look the interviewer in the eye, firm handshake. They're getting loads of blooming advice. It's the senior ones, the exec ones, the ones that you assume, oh yeah, they don't need prep. They're the ones that need prep. So don't ever, ever, ever presume that your candidates know what they're doing, okay? That's just flicking a coin. That's just leaving your stuff to chance. You don't want that. It's like, I want you to be able to predict your revenues. I don't want you to have to guess and cross fingers and all that kind of stuff. So look, the challenge is that you have to prep them. They don't know what they're doing. And it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity for you to get close to your candidate. So look, I've got some questions for you. All right. I've got some questions for you. They're rhetorical questions, but I do want you to either type in your answers or just say them in your mind. I will hear you. I'll know what you're saying. All right. So just answer these questions. So look, let me ask you a question. Do you use a checklist to prep your candidates? Do you use a checklist to prep your candidates or any other document, a cheat sheet, a prep, some questions? You know the stuff. It's like, do you know where you're going? Have you got a new suit? All of those things. But do you use a checklist to do that? If you don't, you should be, because I've given you one. Or if you don't and you haven't got it yet, then you should get into the vault or start banging on Dee's door to get you a checklist. But you guys have got this stuff, all right? So you should be using it. But if you don't use that, you should be using something else. So some other documentation. Do you use a checklist to prep your candidates? How much time do you dedicate to prepping your candidate? How much time do you dedicate to it? Do you explain about the company opportunity? Do you talk about the employer's background? Do you talk about the progression that's there for them? Do you talk about the client's hot buttons, what they're looking for, what the problem that they're looking to solve? Do you tell your candidate this? Do you tell your candidate what to expect? Do you tell them who they might be seeing, what that person's like, what their interview style is like, what questions do they ask, what answers do they like to hear? Do you tell them that? So how much time do you put aside to dedicate to prepping your candidate? Think about that, all right? You might not want to tell me. That's fine. It's like, you may not want to tell me. I get it. Has a candidate ever asked you for advice on what to say during an interview? It's quite a surprise sometimes. I've had senior guys that have turned around and go, Roy, look, I'm a senior guy, but, I haven't been on an interview for a long time. I haven't been on that side or this side of the desk. I've interviewed, of course I have, but they'll ask me, what's the modern take on the salary question? Should I bring that up? And, so they'll ask you, and that's a real cry for help. That is a real genuine cry for help. That's somebody saying to you, look, I really don't know. It's like, help me out here. Please don't just assume I'm senior and I know what I'm doing. I don't know what I'm doing, and I'm scared, and I'm apprehensive, and I'm anxious, and I'm nervous. And something, even the most experienced person, and we count ourselves in on this. We're skilled interviewers, right? We're doing it all the time. We go out to client meetings, we meet candidates, we're interviewing candidates all the time. But when you have to go for an interview, maybe some of you are on client meetings as well, but when you have to be interviewed by somebody, it's quite weird. Actually, even weirder than that is a recruitment consultant interviewing another recruitment consultant. It's like the weirdest thing. It's like an interview off, if you know what I mean. Right. Have you ever asked a candidate at the end of the interview, did you ever ask them, in the debrief, how did you end the interview, and hoped that they said the right things? Have you ever had that feeling? During the debrief, you turn around to the candidate and say, how did the interview end? How did you leave it? And then you inside, you're like, oh God, no, I hope they said the right thing. Oh no, you didn't say that, did you? Right. So it's that kind of thing, right? The final question I've got for you is, have candidates told you that they don't know what the next step is going to be after leaving an interview? So during that debrief, they turn around and go, I don't know what the next thing is. I don't know. Maybe they'll call you. I don't know. Did he say? Like, no, he didn't say. Did you ask? No, I didn't ask. Okay. So if you've ever had any of these situations, if your answer to any of those questions is yes, Roy, I have had that happen to me, or no, Roy, I don't use a checklist, or no, Roy, I don't allocate, great time to prepping candidates, then I want to give you something. All right. I want to give you almost a script, a preparation script that you will give to your candidate. I mean, if you want to get this printed up, that's fine. It's just 3 phrases, right? 3 key phrases that at the end of an interview with your client. So before leaving the interview, the client normally would typically ask the candidate, do you have any further questions or any questions that you'd like me to answer? This is the optimal time to ask any questions, any further questions they give, and begin to move the process forward by closing for a decision. Now, I want to get you, this is me teaching or coaching you, to teach or coach your candidates to close themselves. But, and here's the big but. I love that word, big but. I'm having fun, you know I am. Right. The big but on this is they can only close. This is so important. Please tattoo this on the inside of your eyelids. I only want the candidate to close the client if, only if, they feel they are the best solution for your client's needs. Okay? I.e., they want the job and they can do the job. If they feel those things, it's like, yeah, I really want to go forward with this. I want them to say this. So typically I used to say to my candidates, look, at the end of every interview, client's going to ask you, do you have any further questions? For goodness sake, have some further questions. In fact, I'm not even going to assume that you do. What questions are you going to ask? And I once had a candidate, you can tell how long ago this was, a candidate turned around to me and goes, well, you know, one of the things I'm really interested in is whether they have luncheon vouchers. Now, most of you are going to be too young to remember what luncheon vouchers are. Don't ask, Google it, right? But I was like, no. You don't ask that question, all right? that would be the wrong question to ask. You know, what's your policy about I don't know, time off in lieu if somebody wants to go to Wimbledon? You know, it's like, no, that wouldn't be the question that I want you to ask. So the thing that I used to do is I used to ask them, it's like, look, okay, what questions are you going to ask? And if they had good ones, great. I was less concerned about them. If they didn't, I'd go, right, no, stop there. These are the questions that you have to ask. And I'd get them to write them down on a piece of paper. And that's the other thing you could do with this is like, look, I'm going to give you some guidelines. I'm going to coach you on how to close during an interview. But, and here's the big but, I only want you to do this if A, you want the position, and B, you feel like you can do the position. All right. If you can't believe, so if you don't believe yes to those two questions, then don't close. If you don't want the job, then I do not want you to close the client. If you don't want the job, I also don't want you to tell the client, I don't want the job. Does that make sense? I'm prepping every single candidate to go in there to be offered. That is my primary objective. I want them to be offered, or at the very least be considered as offerable. Is that a word? Yeah. I want every candidate to go in there and potentially be offered. Every one of my candidates, I don't want anyone else's candidates going in there and be offered. My candidates have got to be prepped to the max. And if they're good and it's been a good interview, I don't want to leave anything on the table. So I'd say to the candidate, brilliant. You've got a piece of paper, good. So if I was doing this face-to-face, I kind of do it with them. But if I was doing it on a telephone, I go, have you got a piece of paper? I'm going to give you a couple of seconds just to get that. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Right, brilliant. You got the paper? Great. Okay, write this down. And I'd prompt them, I'd coach them, I'd direct them, I'd push them. And if any of you are wondering, I would push senior clients probably more than I would push junior clients, candidates. I pushed them because I know that the senior ones probably needed more coaching than any junior candidate I ever worked with. All right. So remember that, but they're only going to close the client using this script or these guidelines, pre-closing script, let's call it. They're only going to use this if they can do the job and they want the job. If they don't, keep stum. Don't say anything. Does that make sense? Yeah, I think so. Okay. Good. Okay, let me give you what the first statement is. I like what I've seen and heard today. I like what I've seen and I've heard today. Why is this important for the candidate to state during the interview, do you think? Why is that important? Well, can you imagine if like you heard this? You know, what would you feel if you were the client and you heard a candidate at the end of the interview turning around and saying, do you know what? I really like what I've seen and heard today. It would show me a really high level of interest in my company, in me, the hiring manager, and the opportunity on offer without sounding too gushy. Well, contrast that with, oh, do you know what? I think it's absolutely brilliant here. Why did I do that in a camp voice? I don't know. I think it's absolutely brilliant here. I love it. I absolutely love it. I think you're wonderful. I can really see myself working for you. And I think the opportunity, yes, to break rocks every single day for the rest of my life. Yes, I can really see myself doing that. That's gushy, all right? Now, if I had somebody saying that to me, I would run for the hills. That'd be the last person that I would employ. So you don't want to be too gushy. And here's the other thing: a lot of candidates, particularly non-sales ones, they don't want to appear too salesy. So I've prepped non-sales candidates and told them, like, if you want the job, close them. Tell them, like, I really want the job. I really want the job. And I can see the candidate, the non-sales candidate, the administrative candidate, whatever it is, the accountant, I can see them glazing, or looking like, oh my God, he's teaching me to dance with the devil. They don't want to do it. It doesn't feel right to them. So they don't want to be too gushy. They don't want to be too pushy. They don't want to be too salesy. They don't want to be too cheesy. All these Z's. They don't want to be these things. So this statement, I think, is really good. It shows a high level of interest in the company. It tells me that they like me. I like what I've seen and heard today. Well, I've been the person, if I'm the interviewer, I've been the one that's telling them stuff and showing them stuff. So they're telling me, I like you. Yeah, indirectly, but I like you. And they're also telling me they like the sound of the opportunity, but they're not falling over themselves. Oh, thank you so much. I would love this position. If I was offered it, I would take it tomorrow. If I was offered it, I could start today. I'm that desperate, keen. But you know what? Apart from all those things, it addresses the top priority for your client. If you think about it, it's like almost on every job brief that you take, what does your client ask you for in a candidate? Yeah, there's going to be all key skills and everything else, but in terms of candidate attributes, what they'll say, the top priority, and you'll hear this time and time again, they'll say, you say, well, look, what's the biggest thing you're looking for in any candidate that I send you? So, you know what, we just want someone that's really enthusiastic for the company, enthusiastic for the mission that we've got down here, enthusiastic for the culture and the people that we have. Everybody says that these days, don't they? It's like, I just want enthusiasm. I want the candidate to and I know if Nicholas Greppo is listening to this, he's saying, oh no, Roy, I know with my data scientists, sometimes this is really hard. Nicholas, this is what we need to do with them. All right. I know some of them, he and I joke about this, about they've had an emotional intelligence bypass operation. So Nicholas, with these people, you have to do this stuff. I know he knows this; he does it anyway. But teaching them, it's like because look, and this is not a dig at data scientists. There are a lot of people like this. A lot of people that actually really don't know how to tell somebody that they've enjoyed it. I'm amazed. I'm absolutely amazed. And you know how we do this with kids, don't we? Thinking about, when I go and pick up my kids from like a play date or something, they've been around a friend's house. If any of you have got kids, you'll know this, right? What's the first thing when we go in? We ask the other parent. What do we ask them? Yeah, how's he been? Has she been well behaved? That's the first concern that we have, isn't it? And then when your kid comes to the door, what do we say to them? Say thank you to Johnny's mummy and daddy for having you over and giving you a lovely tea. Did you say thank you for the lovely tea that you had? We teach them that stuff. We coach them. So this is vitally important. I want you to see your candidates almost like your children. It's like, you just can't assume that it's going to be done. All right. It's an enthusiasm. We're coaching. If you can't be enthusiastic, then we're going to bloody well coach it into you. All right, let me give you the second statement. So look, these statements I'm giving you, it's almost like a pre-closing script. This is statement one. I like what I've seen and I've heard today. The second statement, and you can make it straight afterwards. I like what I've seen and heard today. I know that I can be an asset to this company based on my, and at this point, what I want them to do is key matches between the client's hot buttons and what the candidate can provide. So let's say that you have told the candidate, look, one of the things that this client's got is they need somebody to go in there and really stir things up. You know, they need a good sales manager to go in there and really, I don't know, challenge the status quo, to get people out of their comfort zones. So we've communicated that to the candidate, saying, look, this is the client's hot button. They're looking for somebody to disrupt. Okay. So in this closing statement, the candidate needs to, yes, employ a little bit of savvy, that they play on what you've told them, but also what they've heard in the interview. But they need to match what they know the client is looking for with their key skills or their key attributes. So this statement could read, I know I can be an asset to this company based on my ability to be able to go into any hostile situation and take control. Boom. Yeah. I know I could be an asset to this company based on my experience of managing a sales team of over 20 people, differing personalities, different ages, different skill levels, and going in there and within 3 months turning around an underperforming sales team. Okay, I'm a salesperson. I'm going to say that stuff really quickly and easily. But for your accountant, you know, you're placing accountants, your data scientists, for your architects, for your, you know, I don't know, anybody that's probably a non-sales, non-selling type candidate, non-selling type industry, you need to say to them, look, you know, you need to, do not assume that the client is going to automatically be able to make the connection between what they're looking for and what you offer. You have to spell it out for them. All right. So we're coaching them. I know I can be an asset to this company based on they insert the key match between what the client's looking for and what they can provide. Does that make sense? Now, why is that important for the candidate to stay during the interview? Because you can do this. You can do this stuff after the interview. Why is it important for the candidate to do it in the interview? Good. Okay. It's because what it does is it reinforces the candidate's qualifications. It demonstrates their confidence. That's a confident statement, isn't it? I know I can be an asset to this company. And it undermines the strength of your matching. If you have someone that goes in there and it's like, you know they're a good match, but they haven't formed that, I don't know, pathway for the client. It's like, oh yeah, we're looking for this person's got it. They need to have it spelled out to them. And by doing this, it underpins the strength of your matching. Yeah, this is a great candidate for this job. It's like, yes, we are looking for somebody to do that. And this person has just said it. It's brilliant. It also responds to another high priority for your clients. And that is candidates who believe that they can do the job well based on their successful past work experience. Because that's what they're looking for. They're looking for a solution to their problem. And if you can give them somebody that says, you know what, I can do what you need me doing. And the reason why I can say that with authority is I did it in my last company, or I did it 2 companies ago. And when they can say it with that amount of confidence, the client will buy that confidence in spades. They'll buy it in troves. They'll buy loads of it. It's like we all want confidence. We all like and are attracted to confidence, not arrogance, confidence. You don't want somebody to say, you know what, yeah, we can paint your house. It's like, yeah, brilliant. I don't want someone to say, oh, I'm not sure. You know, wow, it's a tough job, isn't it? They might do that actually before they price it. But ultimately, I want someone to go, yeah, I can do that. I can fix your gutter. I can build you a shed. I can do this. I want that. That's what I'm going to pay for. That's what I would employ as well. Okay. And that's the vitally important thing. So that's the second statement in the script. The third and final part. What I don't know, I am willing to learn. What I don't know, I am willing to learn. Now, why is this important for the candidate to state during their client interview? That's right. This indicates a number of personal assets. A number of personal assets. It includes flexibility. I'm flexible. I'm willing to learn. A willingness to improve their skills. A confidence in their capabilities. It's like, what I don't know. It's like, I know most of this, but anything I don't know, I'm willing to learn. It demonstrates open-mindedness. I'm not so completely fixed that I can't see there's another way of doing stuff. It demonstrates the desire to be a team player. And then finally, I think it demonstrates a high level of intelligence. It's not someone who's completely closed and fixed and like, no, there's only one way to do this. That's a terrible accent. I don't know what that's supposed to be. That's a real dodo, isn't it? It's like that. This is intelligence. Look, I don't know. I'm willing to learn. I think it's such a strong statement, but it also speaks to another client priority. Okay, remember I've given you what the client's looking for in all of these things. What it deals with, what it speaks to, is candidates who are coachable and candidates who want to immediately contribute to my company. That's what it demonstrates. It speaks to that priority for me. I want someone who I know I can manage. I know I'm not going to get attitude when I say, look, we need to get you doing more of this and we need to improve on your people management, or we need to, send you on a coaching skills course, or look, let me show you a different way to do that. I don't want to have like an attitude against me. I want someone that says, you know what, I'm willing. I'm willing to learn. I'm willing to change. I'm allowed to do, I'm up for doing all of those things. That's what I want as an employer. And I also want someone who's going to come in and immediately start contributing to the company. Somebody who says this is a contributor. Somebody who says this is going to hit the ground running. So it's a very, very powerful final statement. All right. So these are the three statements. Let's just go back through them again. I like what I've seen and I've heard today. And they'd say all these together. They won't go, I don't want to see that. Let's discuss that. And then they'll say all three of these together. I like what I've seen and heard today. I know I can be an asset to this company based on my previous experience of, sorting this kind of situation out. And finally, what I don't know, I'm willing to learn. Now, if they could string those three things together, get them to write them down, but coach them on those three statements and just say to them, look, if you want the job and you can do the job, I want you to end the interview with these three statements, but then followed by a closing question. And you must always follow those statements with a closing question. So look, how would you do it? What would you do it? What question would you ask and why? I'm really interested to hear what you have to say. All right. So in the 25 Tribe Facebook group, I want you to, think about what are the best closing questions that you can think of and write them in there. Okay. I'm just looking for you to share as many as you can. So you've given them the statements. You've said to them, look, I've really enjoyed, liked what I've seen and I've heard today. I know I can be an asset to this company based on and I sell to their hot buttons with what I can do. What I don't know, John, I'm really willing to learn. And then they're going to close with a question. And my suggestion would be something like, what is the next step? Nice and simple. What I don't know, I'm willing to learn. Can I ask, John, what is the next step? Another one could be, where do we move from here? So remember, I've ended on what I don't know, I'm willing to learn. Where do we move to from here? What's the next stage? John, is there anything in my background that would prevent me from moving to the next stage? I don't want you to ask all of these questions, just one single question. I'm giving you some examples, but I also want you to think of your own. All right. I also want the candidate thinking of their own as well. Is there anything I can answer now, Jane, or provide you with in order to move forward with this? It's another question. Take one more. Can I address any concerns that you may have that would prevent us from moving forward or prevent me from moving forward with this opportunity? That might be a bit too wordy. But look, if there are any concerns, are there any concerns that you may have? Can I address any concerns you may have that would stop me from going forward? Now, I want those closing questions to come in because they're important, aren't they? You don't want to just use those statements. The statements, right, what they do is the statements show the candidate's intent. They show the candidate's intent. The closing question measures the client's response to that intent. Does that make sense? It measures it. It kind of says, right, okay, here's me. I'm keen. I want to move forward. The closing question tests the client. What about you? What's the next step? You know, is there anything that would stop me from going forward? Are there any concerns that you may have that would prevent me from being offered? You know, a good sales candidate would probably ask that. But remember, never assume, all right? I want you to coach. Now, does this make sense? And that's it, all right? That is it. What I want you to take out from this session is those 3 statements followed by a closing question and prepping every single candidate that you are sending for interview. Every single candidate that one of your team members is sending down for interview, I want you to be coaching your candidates. Okay. I want your consultants to be using this system to coach their candidates. Coaching the candidate to pre-close your clients in that interview. Yeah. Can you do that? I know you can do that. All right. So look, question for you. How are you going to apply your new knowledge and skills over the next weeks and months? Think about this. All right. Because otherwise we turn up for these sessions. You like go, yeah, man. Oh, I love that, Roy. Or at least I hope you do. And you go away and you go, yeah, that was really good. Roy was funny. He was having a bad hair day, or he said he had toothache and he had his finger in splints and everything. But wow, that was a load of fun. And then you don't do anything with it. And I think for me, that would be the biggest crime. It's like I almost excuse those other jobs of recruitment consultants out there that get it wrong, because they don't have access to this. All right. You're part of the 2-5 tribe. It's like you're getting this information. So I excuse the ignorant ones out there because it's like, well, they don't know any different. Yeah. They haven't got access to this. Only you do. But the biggest travesty will be, despite having access to stuff, you not changing something, or you not doing something differently. You're not implementing this. So I really, after you finish this session, we're going to close it off now. I really want you to think about or discuss it internally. If you've got people, it's like, if you've got staff around you, how are we going to apply this new knowledge, these new skills over the next weeks and months? And I also want you to ask in there, how are we going to measure or evaluate our progress? Does it work? Roy's teaching us this stuff, but it's like, is it valuable? Does it actually make any difference? And the key thing to measure here is the number of first or second interviews to offers, right? It's the key ratio that you are looking to affect. Interview to offer ratio. So at the moment, if you've got, a 4-to-1 or a 5-to-1, it's like I make 5 interviews, I get 1 offer. Then what you're looking for is movement on that. Yeah. How many more candidates are being offered as a result of this? Or at the moment, if you're in decline, and I hope you're not, but if you're in decline where it just seems like we keep sending candidates down to interview and the offers aren't being made, they're good matches. It's like, we know that they're good skills, but the candidates don't sell themselves well in interview. They're not being offered. At the end of it, we're getting clients saying, well, I'm not sure. It's like, can we see some more people? You want your candidates going in there and closing. Okay, closing for a decision, telling the client, look, I'm interested. If I were to be offered the position, I'd be happy to move ahead. This is the kind of opportunity that I am really interested in taking. Because as my old grandma used to say, it's like you actually, she used to tell me the complete opposite. She used to say to me, Roy, treat them mean, keep them keen. And she was like a poker player. All right, you'd be amazing, grandma. She was a headmistress, a very, very intelligent lady, and she was smart, man. Absolutely. Not only intelligent, but like she was just sharp as a knife. And she used to say to me, don't give your hand away. It's like, it's poker term. Don't give your hand away. Don't, shows and tells. Don't give them that. And actually, I disagree with her. I think for a candidate at this stage of an interview, there's no prizes for playing poker. There's no prizes for keeping your hand close, not declaring your interest. Because when a client has got two candidates in front of them with equal skills, the candidate they offer it to is going to be the one that demonstrates the most enthusiasm. Remember that word, the priority word, the most enthusiasm for them. All right. So look, that's the end. That's all, folks. I hope you've enjoyed today. I've enjoyed hanging out with you. I always do. I'm not going to take any questions here, only because I'm really conscious about time. But if you have any questions at all, please, whether it's from today, whether it's from the replay, watching the replay, whatever, type them up into the Facebook group, and let's share our answers as well. I'm really specifically interested in your closing questions. What questions do you get the candidate to ask at the end of the interview after those three statements? How do they finish it off? How do they, move towards a conclusion? Because the next time you ask your candidate, brilliant, how did you end? How did you leave it? You don't want them to go, I really don't know. It's up in the gods. It's in the hands of the gods. It's like, you don't want that. You want a definitive answer. So teach them how to close. Okay, guys, listen, thanks ever so much. Been great hanging out with you. To the new guys at Dawson Levy, thank you very much for joining us, and look forward to seeing you on the next one. Until then, remember, work hard on your recruitment business. Don't just be busy in it, and make a difference in the lives of your clients, your candidates, and your colleagues if you've got them. It's Roy Ripper signing off. Take care. Bye-bye.